Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Hey, it's something about speaking of running. Some of the things I wanted to talk about, and some people may or may not see eye to eye with, but
I think I know where you're going with this.
yeah, the AI trend. Okay, here we go with robotics and stuff. Now I could see again, just as I always say, I look at things biasly. I look at things like, okay, what can this do for you that it can't, nothing can do at the moment to help you? Or is there, it's just like with anything, it's just like with a pencil. Well, they copyrighted it and then they've redid it to the point what a pencil looks like today. But as an example, an autonomous vehicle. What is your opinion and what is your thought about an autonomous vehicle?
Okay, when it comes to the vehicles,
Mm-hmm.
I I'm not sure how I feel about them. I
Right.
know, eventually we will get there where they're fully automated.
Right.
But as of right now, I mean, I've seen so many things on the news and so many like clips and stuff on YouTube
Mm-hmm.
where those self-driving vehicles they crash
Right. Right.
and you still like yes, it is a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you should always pay attention in a vehicle.
Exactly.
No matter if it's an automatic driving vehicle or if you're a passenger or you're the driver because you could see something that the driver missed
Right.
or you can correct the mistakes that the automated driving vehicle makes. Because I've seen a lot of articles where people were texting with the automated driving cars and they weren't paying attention and they
Mm-hmm.
got into an
Mm-hmm.
accident or they fell asleep because
Ooh.
you know they're automatically driving cars. That's what they're designed to do. They're designed to drive. But you still have to pay attention.
You do.
You still need
Absolutely.
to be awake.
The one thing that's truly scary about that to me is I don't like, and you touched, you hit the mark right on the point, right on the mark. You don't have control when it comes to an autonomous vehicle. The vehicle is driving itself. You have no real control. If you can override those controls, like say if it starts zooming off, if it starts to fall asleep or if it becomes
Hmm.
hacked or whatever the case it is, do I have technology to where I can manually override it and take control myself with it? The thing about that is it's a very scary thing, but then you think about what they would have to do to fully automate or fully get all these vehicles out there that are autonomous, that drive by
Hmm.
themselves. Is the vehicle going to be able to read the road? Does it have to scan the road? Just like how when you in today's newer cars where you back up, it automatically shows a camera on your dash. That way it shows you that if there's any people behind you or another vehicle, it'll make the beep 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 noise. So are they going to
Like
have to?
like my vehicle, when
Yeah.
I back up,
Mm-hmm.
it's got the camera.
Exactly. You're
And
just.
even if like I'm not moving and I put it in reverse and a
Mhm.
car goes by, it makes sure it lets me know and beeps really loud.
See, and now that's the thing. Now reverse it. Instead of putting it on the back end of the vehicle, are they going to put it also on the front end of the vehicle? So that way, when you're driving down the road, say you're on I-80, you're in Ohio Turnpike, and you're
Hmm.
driving, you're going west, because that goes all the way out towards it goes out for Everness. It goes out almost probably to Washington State. So if you're
Hmm.
running this major artery, you are in your lane, okay? Now, does this robot or autonomous vehicle have to read the width of the individual lane that you're in to calculate to keep it straight? Because I think this would have to do it, right? It would have to calculate if it's driving
Yeah.
straight, it would have to figure out this lane is, 8 feet wide versus this and this, from the dotted lines to the shoulder is 8 feet. So I must
Hmm.
stay within that 6 foot cushion to have a foot this way to equate to 8 feet. So that way it stays down the center of that main lane. Now, what
Yeah.
happens though, the scary part is when you're on the freeway, if you ever notice when you're in construction, it says road narrows or it gets smaller because you have to merge into this weird construction zone lane
Mm-hmm.
that they manipulate. So now is the computer that's autonomous now going to have to be able to read those new changing lanes, that way it can compensate and make go by itself into that lane? Or is it going to drive you straight into that wall because it's still assuming that width of that road is 8 feet? Or it's confused and it says error 404, can't figure out why this lane is shrinking, and all of a sudden it's a scary thought. So are they going to develop a thing now where they put in the concrete like these, or is it going to be like a satellite fed thing where it's going to be every 10th of a mile there's like a little laser that the computer in the vehicle reads as it goes by it and says, okay, stay straight for X amount of time, or whatever the case it is. So there's all these arguments of like what it can do. Are they going to spend trillions? Do we have to resurface all the freeways and stuff just to make these autonomous vehicles? I mean, it's scary. It's a scary thought if you really think about it. I like to have control of things, especially when it comes to driving. Because if you're doing,
when you're driving, the only thing you can control is yourself in your car.
Right.
You can't control other vehicles.
Right. But you have to drive for them.
Exactly. Like, say, I don't know, you and Joe Schmo are both driving in automatic driving cars.
Right.
What if Joe Schmo needs to get to, say, an exit on the opposite side of you? I know there's a lot of technology with the cars and stuff that give you that the sensors and stuff, because I know my vehicle has a lot of sensors.
Right.
But you have to think, what happens if a sensor goes out? What happens if you aren't paying attention or you can't control the car and Joe Schmo's car comes out in front of you and your car doesn't pick up on it right away?
Right. There's that delay. What if there's an update what if there's an update in the computer's brain as you're driving?
While you're driving.
Yes.
Exactly.
Or what if like the snow conditions? Like what if it's snowing outside?
I would hate to think about automated cars in snow. Trust
me, when you're in a snow belt area like myself, it's scary to drive. Number one, when you're physically driving a vehicle with your hands on the wheel. I could not imagine how scary it would be.
A computer doing it.
A car doing it on its own. That would scare the bejesus out of me. They would. I'm sorry. I would absolutely have to move into an environment where it is more sun, less snow, because I couldn't handle it. And you made a good point too. So here's a thought too, as you mentioned about Joe Schmo going off the exit. Do you have to pre-calculate? Say, for example, I'm going to the mall. Okay. Mm-hmm. Do I have to, when I step foot into the vehicle, do I have to either verbally command it to tell it, like, where to, Cactus, whatever it says, and say, drive me to Joe Schmo's mall, please? Or, you know, is it calculating? Now? Is it like, how it is on your road trips on Google Maps and stuff?
Like GPS and stuff.
Right. Does it now do it for me to where I can only just, I type in the location where I'm going, and then automatically it uploads a distinctive route, and then it follows that. But I mean, is that the only way for autonomous vehicles to work too? I mean, you can't drive it. Like, what if I want to take a back road, or what if I want to say the freeway's closed up ahead, but the thing still sits there and says, well, we still have to go through this, but I can't because the road's closed. What do you do? What happens?
Exactly.
So that there's some things still that people, I have family members who are huge that want this to happen. They're so excited. They're not lazy drivers. They're not the best drivers, but they're not the laziest drivers. I mean, they drive like hell, but they drive. But they are just looking for that day when this stuff comes to reality. And it's scary for me because I love to sit back, listen to the radio. I love
Mm-hmm.
going for a nice drive. I do. I used to. People today are a lot scarier. I saw a lady yesterday texting and she's driving right next to me.
Yeah.
I'm doing 45 miles an hour. She's next to me. I mean, you're doing like 63, 64 feet a second. You know,
Mm-hmm.
5 seconds or less, you're clearing a football field. In that time frame, it's impossible to stop. You're going to minimum like 100, 115 feet of slamming your brakes and sliding. So it's like,
Exactly.
scary. Another point too with AI would be like at a fast food place.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a
Yeah.
flip of the coin too. A lot of people need to work in life. So if you put a AI or a robot in place of a human, which is a lot of places are starting to do, I could see about, car manufacturers and stuff like that when you're manufacturing vehicles. Like if a human being can't just pull out something from a furnace that's like scalding hot metal,
Exactly.
like a car door and just plant it down. They can't do that. But a robot can just pick it up and no problem set it down. But what if you were in a scenario where Joe Schmo's chicken, it says, okay, I'm going to fire all these employees. I'm going to put in place robots because you don't have to pay them minimum wage or you don't have to pay them a set wage either. So that's a loss of jobs, which I could see as a bad thing. But if we overcome that hump, think about this. You have this robot who is manually grabbing items. Say if you said, you're welcome to Joe Schmo's chicken. Can I help you? I'll take a number one with tomatoes, a hamburger with tomatoes, if you will. Pull through the second window, whatever. The robot is making your sandwich, right? It's sitting there, it's doing all this thing behind the scenes. But what happens though is, number one, you got to have somebody to do maintenance for the machines. Number two, you got to stop and think about it. What if this machine that is actually physically touching your food, unless you put a glove on it, which would be kind of funny if you think about it, a little glove on a robot, it might happen.
You could.
I'd love to see the day that would happen. That'd be kind of interesting. But then you have this point where you got to remember it's a robot. It's not a human. So
Yeah.
they have mechanics that have to be lubricated with oils like hydraulic fluid. It's all hydraulics, and for those actions, or it won't work. It'll be stiff as a board and it won't work. But what if you're making that sandwich and this robotic autonomous robot, this AI, has a leak or it makes a crack on, just the metal or the hose or seal starts to go. And now you're talking about this oil or hydraulic fluid that is now dripping on your food. Now that's a horrible thought or horrible scenario or synopsis, but that's something you got to consider too. Would you want Joe Schmo's chicken with extra oil on your food or hydraulic fluids? Because I certainly would. But
to me, that sounds like a lawsuit that's going to cost more than paying an employee than a robot.
And that's a great point because that was the loop around. Exactly. It's like now you think about that, the technology where people are like, oh, this, I can't wait for this. This will be so much easier. It will not be easier. It will actually be. It could potentially be
more harmful
than good in a sense. It'll be cheaper for, the budget for the owners of these said companies. But at the same time, you have a higher incidence where it could, drip fluid on it or whatever like that. That could kill somebody. Of course, things happen in the industry, regardless of what it is. You can find chopped up pieces of plastic in your food, right now as it sits. But I think though, as time progresses, like these robots and stuff that are coming in, it's going to be bad. I mean,
oh yeah. Even humans make mistakes.
Oh yeah. We are not perfect.
But they're not something that can be a lethal mistake.
Right. Unless they threw a knife or a razor or something in a foot. Exactly. It could be.
It's been done before, but
right.
not often.
And it could
when
be
it
about anything too, not just fast
exactly.
food, but in general, you know. And I don't know. And then you think about the robots taking over like that, because they always say, you know, well, we've seen movies where robots come to life and, you know,
iRobot,
I'll be back. You know, you got
Terminator.
these scary thoughts because the computer is programmed by human, but it gets to the point where the programming itself now is the robot itself. It's programming itself.
Exactly.
And it's a scary thought. You think about it. People always want that constant 5G, 6G networking. They want, you know, they want the best and
Hmm.
these people
The biggest
today.
and the best. That's
And
just
it's
human
scary.
nature.
It is. And that's how we develop and evolve. You know, we went start from the Bronze Age to the Industrial Revolution
Hmm.
to VHS beta to CD players to boom boxes. Now we have little, you know, the MP3. Remember the MP3 players as well too.
Oh, I remember getting my first MP3 player.
See, I do too. I do remember. I was going for jogs. That's when I was a little bit more in shape. But I would go for my jogs and stuff like this, and I would have my little player up here, and I would just listen to it and listen to the music that I enjoyed, you know. And it was super fun, super cool. And then technology killed it. You know, you had those pirated, uh, uh, the pirated websites and stuff that where you could download music. I could download a whole CD of music for free. I didn't have to go to the shop. I didn't have to go to a place, a music store to buy the latest album. I could just buy it or get it for free right here. Just type in blah, blah, blah. There's, you know, Joe Schmo sings the blues. And I'm like, oh, there we go. You know, I'm like, I got that for free. I didn't have to pay that publisher. And they got into a lot of trouble, those
Yeah.
kind of places. But there's a thing for technology, though. But again, for autonomous stuff, no. As far as like getting us to different parts of the universe, maybe. Because if you think if we didn't have technology like we do today, which is bringing up another point of mine, the very first time we went to the moon, supposedly, I still am on. I'm still like 50-50. We went to the moon. And I'll tell you why in a second. You think about it though, if you have a calculator that is just, you know, in your house, you have a calculator roaming around near you or in a drawer or whatever,
Hmm.
the processing power of that calculator, the power of that calculator got us to the moon. Think about that. The very first space shuttle or first launching of space ships to the moon had the technology equivalent to the calculator. That's pretty messed up. Now think about it. The last launch was what, in the 60s or whatever it was, when we physically
Hmm.
touched the surface of the moon. Here's my question to you, Fufu. Technology has doubled, tripled, quadrupled, even more so, 10 times, 20 times, 50,000 times better
Oh yeah.
than the technology we have. Which is interesting because why haven't we been back to the moon?
Okay. See, me honestly, I was actually just talking about this with my husband and my father-in-law last night.
Mhm.
It's crazy that you brought it up because when it comes to that, it could be one, it would have been cheaper to, you know, it probably would have been either, I forget how they worded it last night, but
Mhm.
to fake the moon landing
Versus physically go to the moon.
versus actually going, you know,
Right.
you have to compare costs there.
And that's true too. But if you're in like in California, and if you've ever been to Cali, or if you've ever been on a sound stage, like I've been on a sound stage, they're massive. You
Hmm.
think about like the Pirates of the Caribbean or the Caribbean, whatever you want to call it. They had those huge, I'm talking huge sound, you know, studios, and they're massive. And
Yeah.
there's some that are as big as a studio, like a news studio, and they're as massive as a football stadium or bigger. So if I were to do that, if I were to say, okay, I want to outbeat the Soviet Union when it comes to this space race, they did kind of beat us up in space to begin with Sputnik and all that, but, and I think they might have beat us too with their technology just to get to space in general. But if I wanted to say, ha ha, I got you, went over you, I would say, okay, continue making the space shuttle, continue making all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. But let's do this. Let's pretend that we went there. We can actually go into a studio, a sound stage. We can go there. We could actually mock the moon because we've gotten pictures of the moon.
We know what it looks like.
Right. It's just like with Mars, like today they're talking about Mars stuff. Okay. Well, if I go to the Arizona deserts or even to the Utah, look at the surroundings, look at the outline area, the mountains and the desert line, how it works. It looks just like Mars. I could literally fake it if I really wanted to. But my point with the moon thing is we have all this technology now that we didn't have even back in the 80s. We had more technology than we did in the 60s. So why in the hell didn't we go back to the moon? We only touched base there like 2 or 3 times. 2 times, I think, Armstrong and them touched their feet firmly planted on the planet supposedly. But why haven't we gone back? Is there something that they know? Did they find alien technology?
That's the big point of what we were talking about last night. Is we've been to the moon.
Right.
What was it that keeps us from going back?
Right.
There has been satellite pictures of what looks like bunkers and a tower with a satellite pointed straight at the Earth. Yeah. There's been those kind of images.
And that's
what is that is living there that is preventing us from going back.
I think
if it's an alien race, if we actually went to the moon, did they threaten us if we ever went back?
Right.
Then it would start a terrestrial war. And I think that's why they moved on to Mars.
I look at it like this too. I think if we're going to get, I think you're right. But here's the thing. I think they took satellite pictures. I think we actually did do. I don't think physically humans have touched foot on the moon myself. It's just my opinion. Other people can say yes, they did. That's fine. That's great. But my thing is,
you believe it.
And what you said is perfect. Is they found? They always say it's on the back end of the moon, the dark side of the moon.
Oh yeah.
Not to be like Pink Floyd instead, the dark side of. Yeah, such a great album. But they say that there's alien technology or alien bases on the backside of the moon, which I think is kind of, whatever. But you said it perfectly. What if they actually did indeed find something via satellites or maybe a message via, like a signal that they had translated into because they had the technology from 1947 Roswell, when the UFO crashed to the ground over in Roswell, New Mexico. Maybe they got technology where they can actually read messages or interpret some signals, just throwing it out there. But again, that's why we haven't stepped foot on it. And because now we are going to Mars, because there's more technology out there. There's always the face of Mars. I'm like, because I'm a big alien believer, but I mean, I've seen questionable things in real life, but I don't know. The face looks to be a face of an alien, but then again, it could be just the way the satellite was flying over that particular rock formation, the angle of the sun. They have almost the exact same. If you think about it, the Mars is almost extremely the same size as Earth. It has the almost the exact same rotation speed as Earth. The day the night ratio is almost the identical to ours, which is even creepier. And one last little bit for me is that I think we started off on Venus. Now, this is going to throw you're like, what? Well, think about it. Venus is, again, just like the size of the Earth. It's about the same size and stuff. It's closer
Mm-hmm.
to the sun, more, it gets more heat, more radiation, et cetera, et cetera. But I think something happened with our technology, and this is where it gets interesting, Fufu. I think this is why we're jumping planets. Okay, we screwed up. We caused the Venus to just be the hell it is now. If of all planets, except for the sun itself, it is extremely hot, is extremely greenhouse affected. It's even hotter than Mercury. Mercury is the closest to the sun.
Yeah.
Venus is just baking itself. It's just killing itself with over and over and over with the heat because the clouds cannot. It's getting hit to the ground, but it cannot bounce off the surface. It can't do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're so afraid of greenhouse. Look what's happening to the Earth right now. In a sense, we are now getting
Exactly.
where the Earth is the temperatures are starting to go up, and now we're looking. Okay, future lives of humans have to continue living on. Let's bounce and find technology on this one. We'll start off on the grounds of, we'll start in baby steps. We'll go to Mars now and start developing and getting people and humans on Mars to culture, to get their, to cultivate things, to make life there. And then because Earth is screwed, that's my thought. I don't know. I could be way off, but it was just always my theory that we're just hopping onto different planets because as human beings we're like, oops, we effed this place up, now we got to go to
Mm-hmm.
Earth, this big marble that has an ocean, which is exactly what Venus had at one time and exactly what Mars had at one time. Mars has no atmosphere, it's completely gone, kaput, goodbye. If you put plants on there that actually absorb the carbon dioxide, I think eventually if you put enough trees or enough plants on the planet that can actually tolerate the heat and temperature differences, because it's huge spectrum
Mm-hmm.
of temperature differences. At night, it's freezing cold. During the day, it gets really warm. Again, there's no atmosphere. But if you can find or even mutate a plant that can absorb carbon dioxide like they do, that's what they do. They produce oxygen in return. You now have a perfect environment where this plant can thrive, multiply. Eventually, don't know how long it would take, but way beyond our lifetimes, eventually will start building an atmosphere of oxygen to the levels where it will start building a building block or a cushion of O2 oxygen, where
Mm-hmm.
now this planet Mars again is thriving because it has an oxygen and it has everything because it's been oxygenated, if that's even a word, by these plants. If we took all the trees out right now in our world, if we cut them all down, we'd be kind of screwed. Really.
I
I
mean,
mean,
that's the way we're heading
we're heading there
anyway.
now. Exactly. And you're thinking
Deforestation.
2080, 2080, 2090, 2100. When we get to those points, are we already on Mars? Are we already starting to develop trees and plants and animal species and stuff like this? Are we, because it's going to get to that point. That's what you need. It's all you need is a plant that can officially withstand the temperatures. I mean, if they could replicate a damn goat, right? If they could gene split a goat and make it into a genetically altered goat like they did years ago, why can't they genetically make a plant that has more tolerance to heat and weather environments, plant those onto a Mars or a planet, let it develop an oxygen enriched environment to where the point where humans can actually breathe? Once you do that, you'll have the hydrogens will start kicking in. You'll have some nitrogen, obviously, because that's what the plants are going to live off of, as well as your carbon dioxide. Eventually, all that is just going to become this beautiful bulb known as another Earth or a planet where you and I and whoever can breathe on. It's that simple, but it's scary. It's a scary thought, considering that I feel we haven't been to Mars or Moon, but that's just it.
Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
and I agree. You know, the planet hopping theory is a really good theory.
It
But
is.
then again, you also have to look back at Earth's history.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We've had dinosaurs that have been killed off by meteors,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ice Age
Yeah. Valid point.
that that shows that, no matter what, Mother Nature's gonna find a way to make it right again.
Mm-hmm. 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 It always
If
heals
for
itself.
if for some reason it doesn't heal itself, then yes, they'll probably, like, if things don't start getting better with the greenhouse gases and the the ozone layer getting thinner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's why they're trying to go and see about sustainable life.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that way there is a backup plan. I mean,
Exactly. And that's where I feel like now. See that.
it's all trial and error at this point in time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's my theory too. It's like, okay, alien technology maybe has taught us to see, and that's where, like, Blindy and I example, we kind of clash when it comes to the belief of technology by aliens and stuff. You think about all the pyramids. We're talking
Oh God, yes.
we're talking thousands of years BC, before Christ as it's called, right? So if you were to go today to, say, Egypt, which I would love to go, I would love to see this stuff. It would
Mm-hmm.
be awesome and amazing, you know. But to think about, to see all this stuff, the technology, and how each individual chunk of the pyramid, the individual stones, if you will, not only do they weigh a ton or multiple tons,
Mm-hmm.
but if you were to study them closely, because scientists and archaeologists are just, their jaws hit the floor like Wile E. Coyote. They are, the way they are put together side by side is so universal, so perfect around the edges. It's only off by like a 16,000th of an inch or whatever it is. So in other words, for humans to do that without using technology we have today, they didn't have any of the stuff we have today. They didn't have any kind of electronic stuff that would guide you into, this angle off by this
Yeah.
degree. They solely relied on eyes. Maybe they had primitive technology, we don't know. But how in the hell can you make something as massive as, 10, 12 stories tall, a pyramid that has multiple rooms, has booby traps,
Has
and
ventilation.
has ventilation, and on top of it, you bury your loved ones of the kings and queens and their families in here with a trove of treasure? How in the hell, without human knowledge of basic building, can you build something that good, that precise, without alien technology or some kind of technology that was given to you? Now think about that, and think about the Aztecs, the all the way out into Mexico. If you go there, if you look at that kind of culture and stuff that are thousands of miles away from Egypt, how in the hell do they know how to build pyramids? Think about that. The Aztecs, they had pyramids all over the place. Mexico is just filled
Oh God, yes.
with pyramids and stuff that is very similar to what you've seen, in the Valley of the gods, or God, I forgot how they call it in Egypt, but the area where the pyramids are over there. The technology, man, I'm thinking, and I'm throwing it out there, foo right now. I'm thinking we may have been visited, not just in today's world, but in other times. I think we've had some kind of a technology where a being higher than us, who's mentally capable of snap fingers, oh, I can do this for the technology in exchange for whatever it is. I think aliens did kind of give us that technology that we have today. Think about it.
And see, on that note,
Mm-hmm.
in the Bible, there's a passage, and I'm only bringing this up for a split second. It talks about a chariot of fire coming down from the sky.
Okay.
If you think about the time when that was written, what they didn't have terms like airplane, UFO, this or that. What did they use to get around? They used chariots.
Chariots. Yep. Mm-hmm.
They didn't have words like spotlights or, stuff you would see on an aircraft. What did they have? They had fire. They had
Right.
torches.
Mm-hmm.
Chariot of fire could have very well meant an unidentified flying object
Right.
because it's coming from the sky.
Right. Right. And all the hieroglyph that you've seen, some of those things that are etched on mountains or etched on the walls of caves.
Uh-huh.
There's some that, and I'm sure if you did a web search, you would find them on your own. But if you look at them, it looks to be an alien form that has a helmet, a space suit in general, and it looks something not of this world. Now they primitive people were known to, for hierarchies or higher people in their tribes and stuff, they would, etch out their kings and priests and, the princesses, etc. We get that. That's what the pharaohs in Egypt did it all the time, right? They would mark in the stuff. But if you look at some of these old, I'm talking primitive etchings on stones and caves or mountains and stuff like this, they look more alien. They look like they're wearing a space suit helmet that you would find today that we would carry. They look like they have an outline around their body that looks to be of a space kind of a suit. So why would some primitive technology or primitive culture of anywhere in the world globally that etched this out, why would they etch that out if they didn't see this? The sun, of course, the ray, the god of sun, the Helios, if you will, they would do things like that. They thought those are gods. So why in the heck would they have these primitive etchings of a creature, of a being, if they didn't see it or if it didn't happen, or even a spaceship looking thing? I mean, technology, why would they lie back in those days,
Exactly. What did they have to gain from it?
Exactly. It's like why would they lie about something like that? Because number one, for you to sit there and hammer this out on a stone would take a long time, and you wouldn't want to waste your resources.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you sit there and unless you're Charles Dickens or something of the back then, where you just want to write a fictitious storyline, but you're gonna
but then if it was something like that, it wouldn't be multiple different places in the world.
Right, exactly.
It would only be confined to that one place and time.
Right. So now that all stems back. Okay, you got the pyramids of Egypt, you got the pyramids of Mexico, you have all that area right there in that peninsula, Venezuela, and going further back up into Panama, and you have all those areas in Mexico where the Aztecs were. They all have this culture, and they all just disappeared. Look at Easter Island. I mean, holy shit! Have you seen Easter Island? All those heads. They didn't even find the stones. They had to find, where did they get all and they had to carve each one of those. They didn't have a machine that carved it out, and said, okay, here's this head is exactly as this head. No, they didn't have that.
And then like Stonehenge.
Exactly. In England. And England is notorious for its history, not only for the the knights of, the Templars and all that stuff. They were protections of kings and queens.
Mm.
But yeah, man, technology even back then. Think about it. Stonehenge is this calendar where you could see the sun through the thing. Who develops that? Who says, okay, I'm just going to develop this? I think it's alien technology. I really do. Plato's and Socrates, all these people, Da Vinci, all these people that are amazing brains, Einstein. Are they subsidies of aliens that were here or once here at one time? Kind of makes you wonder, No, to me, it fascinates me about space. We haven't stepped foot on the, we have all this technology. We still haven't been anywhere around there. We know more about space than we do our own oceans, which is even funnier. But
Yes, that's another
that,
big thing that I was
that's
talking about last night.
yeah, that's another thing too. Like,
We know like 7% of our oceans.
which is crazy. But you think about it, if you could develop a spacesuit that can handle the pressure, the vacuum of space, why not develop a suit that can handle the exact same thing but down in water pressure? It's
Exactly.
it's kind of the same thing, although water pressure is a little bit different than air pressure, but it has the same basis. And I'm not a scientist, but I would assume any kind of vacuum or any kind of pressure that is put on the body via pressure out in space where there's no air, no oxygen, it's a vacuum. It would be the same thing in the bottom of the ocean, because if you were in a suit, and this is something that was scary back in the 50s and 40s and stuff. You know, you've seen those or those old movies, right? Where the big helmet on their heads that looks like a fish bowl, and they're walking slowly with a big cord, oxygen cord that, you know, so the primitive space or the primitive water suits that they had, you know, diving suits, the bells, if you will, those suits are extremely dangerous because even if you had a crack in it, and Mythbusters proved it. They actually they had a fake body that was made of gel, that bullet gel that they use, and they put it down in pressures of water. The lower it went, and it cracked. The glass cracked on it, and immediately it sucked itself inward. It was like a void. It would be like your body being sucked into a bottle of water.
Yeah.
I mean, instantly, your whole brains, everything just gets sucked into it. So the whole body gets sucked into it. So I think that's why we don't do deep diving yet, because of humans, because we haven't figured out the secret sauce, if you will.
And I get that, but it's 2021. We
Mm-hmm.
have technology.
Oh, yeah.
We have those. How do you think they found the Titanic? One of those little scuba diver little camera things.
Right.
We have those.
Mm-hmm. And they can
You don't
withstand
have
it.
to risk a human life to go and explore the oceans.
Right.
We have the technology to explore the oceans.
We have the technology to map the whole entire. But I know there's trenches. There's the Pacific Trench, you know, the Ring of Fire, if you will, towards like Japan, Alaska, you know, the whole area over there. It's called the Ring of Fire, and it's all because there's a 5-mile deep trench. But as you said, we have technology. We have the machinery that can do what humans can't. Why haven't we done it yet?
Exactly. We know 7% of our ocean.
That's crazy. Think about that.
7%. Our planet is like 75% water.
Mm-hmm.
And we know 7% of that.
That's like a tenth or 1% of the. And we have been to Pluto. Well, it used to be Pluto and known as a planet. We've been to Saturn. We've been to Jupiter. We've sent satellites as far as all 9 planets have been photographed. Okay, all the planets in the universe, immediate universe, has been that. So it makes you wonder, like, why haven't we found anything in the oceans again? Now, are there alien technology in the bottom of the oceans? Is there alien?
That was the next thing I was going to say. We're constantly looking for UFOs in the sky.
Right.
But we don't know our own ocean.
True.
We don't know what goes on below the surface.
We don't.
We know maybe a mile down. If that. Maybe 2.
And the pressure just gets, I mean, you think the pressure does get intense. And I'm not going to lie to you. The further you go down, the more pressure is applied. So 60 pounds, I mean, it only takes, 6 pounds per square inch of pressure to push on, to break a bone. So in human technology, that's not very much. And,
no, it's not.
You know, where you live, you know, you have creatures that are prehistoric that can chomp on you and break a bone like that, because they have the strongest jaw pressure PSI of any creature of the world, which is scary.
Well, you got to think about it. They've lived for thousands of years. They had to adapt and get that pressure.
And they had to, and that was the survival. You know, that's survival. And everything.
Survival of the fittest.
And they say everything came from the oceans. We were the first, we came out of the ocean. We were all ocean creatures, if you will, single cell amoebas that evolved. Now, I don't know about dinosaurs evolving like that, because that would, but it's amazing how dinosaurs and stuff like that, was there technology that did that? Was the asteroids a oopsie by aliens? Was it aliens that were actually invading the world instead of because we can only think about it. In what is it? New Mexico. I'm sorry, not New Mexico. The Gulf of Mexico, towards where that little inlet is down below in Mexico, and it starts going towards Panama and all that stuff. That's where they say, quote, the crater or the meteor that done in the dinosaurs is what killed the dinosaurs, was that explosion of that particular meteor that hit the earth. Now, it was a massive one. If you've ever seen the one over in Arizona, that crater that's like 2 miles or 5 miles wide, that would scare the bejesus out of me if I saw something that massive coming down from the earth. But that particular one, they say, is the one that did in the creatures, because it produced the shock wave across the world, but also too, it caused the cloud, the gases and stuff like that, the volcanic ash and stuff from the explosion to choke them out. That's what killed them, right? But I don't know about that. But to think about, if we came out from the water, and scorpions were one of the very first creatures, they say, that came out of the ocean and were on the land. But what caused us to start from the water? All the water we got is from space. It was all meteors hitting the earth, they say, because if you think a meteor or a comet, I should say, excuse me, a comet is a ball of ice. It's a big dirty snowball is what it is. And it's, hitting across it's going, there's a huge belt of it way outside our universe, not too far, but it's out there. And they just go around in this humongous out, it goes all the way from the sun and back, and it goes back all the way out. That's why, like, can't think of the name of that Halley's Comet. Once every 76 years, it shows up, and it pops around, and it takes that long for it to do that big circle. But you think about these snowballs of dirty comets that hit the earth, they say that's what gave us the oceans. So I guess in a sense, again, we are alien because we came from the different, somewhere out there in the universe, as an alien, fell down to earth and just said, hey, let's just fill this up with water. I'm sure that took billions of years to do, because the earth didn't cool down for the longest time, just as the moon broke off and collided, and it took off that chunk, and that's what the moon developed, which is even weirder. But,
I think that we're looking in the wrong place for aliens. So
right.
I think we should look within our own planet.
Deep in, yeah. And they say shapeshifters, they say, are here. And I don't know about that, but
I don't know about that either. But I've seen some videos and stuff where and of course, it could all be doctored, could all be fake. I'm not saying you have to believe this because you saw it on the internet. No.
Right.
I've seen things that are unexplained, like what look like some kind of spaceship. Instead of going up, it went out to the middle of, like, off of one of the continents and go into the ocean.
Right.
That's, again, it might not be real, but it makes me think, what are we doing? We're looking in the vast emptiness of space, but we're not looking
in the proper,
in our own
right. It's
domain.
Is it underneath our noses? Is it underneath our feet? I mean, it's a possibility, and we just don't know it, but maybe the government does. the government, people have said, has covered up stuff, and that's, I mean, they were talking about, how did they word it? They said that this year the government is announcing that they do believe in aliens. It's like, that's a big step. You think about that, the government, who's many, many years covered, look at like Roswell. They covered that immediately. They basically,
Yeah.
now I don't know if it's true or not, but people had said, the interviews and stuff, they had said that when that happened over there, they were threatened. The family members were threatened. If you said anything about this, your family either will die or will take your family away and you'll never see them again.
Hmm.
Men in Black. That's what they called them. Men in Black. They were in suits. They rolled up in unmarked vehicles. They didn't have license plates. They didn't have nothing that said that this vehicle is a Cadillac or whatever. It didn't have no markings on it, period. Just like, kind of like how, if how it is now over there at Area 51. I mean, is that, they take off from Las Vegas. The ship, the airlines that take employees, the employees had to be flown to Area
Hmm.
51. They're
Yeah.
in unmarked planes. The only distinction, I think, is they have a red thin line around the ship. The I keep saying ship, the airline. There's no navigation or aviation numbers, because if you look at like American Airlines flight
There's no
3240,
flights.
yeah, there's no flights, there's no numbers that are serial labels on, like they are on your typical airlines. If I see an airplane sitting at the runway right there, it has numbers on the side of it, on the wing or on the back tail part, that
Hmm.
identifies that one. Flight 3243 Delta 638 or whatever it is. So it identifies it. It's kind of like a VIN number for your vehicle.
Hmm.
Those particular airplanes that fly to and fro from Area 51 do not have no markings on them. They're not even covered under the so-called dispatch, or what are the control towers. They have their
Yeah.
own separate control tower, their separate frequency, yet they still fly out from Las Vegas airport. That's kind of crazy. Why are they hiding? What are they hiding over there? Makes you kind of wonder.
No one will ever know
We will
if
never
they had
know.
their way about
I've known people that, like my friends who are across the ocean, who have said, "Hey, Cactus, if I ever come visit you, you and I have to go over there to Area 51 or
it.
go
No.
over that." I'm like,
No. I'm
I mean,
sorry. I enjoy living
there are signs that physically say that they can legally kill you if you cross those
on
lines.
site. Yep.
Yes, they don't have to tell you why. They could just do
Even
it.
even if you just put your toe across under the fence,
Yep. Yeah.
you are on that property and they legally have the right to shoot you.
Now the damning thing even further is even before you get to that line, they already know you're there.
Oh
They
yeah.
they have cameras everywhere that the technology we don't have.
Not
So
only cameras, but they have pressure plates
yes,
and stuff that you will never see. But they
yes.
if you step on them, they'll know.
So it all brings back down to this robotics, the AI and stuff. Where do we find all this technology? It makes you really wonder, scratch your head, like, where did this come from? This technology we have today is so advanced so quickly. There has to be something from
Behind.
another. Right. I mean, like you said, I think you touched base perfectly. I think we do have to travel down. There's something below us. It could be Loch Ness for all we know. I mean, what the hell was Loch Ness Monster? Why did somebody report that they saw that? Why would they hoax something like that? What would be the personal gain? Fame and fortune? Yeah, that's cool, but you think it would be local. But when multiple people see something that happens multiple times, just like, you've seen questionable stuff, I've seen questionable things. Thousands and thousands of reports every year of of something being seen, a UFO, which strictly means unidentified flying object, something that is not normal seeing here on Earth, like a jet or a helicopter, or it kind of makes you wonder that, there's a lot of things we don't know. If you live near the ocean, a lot of people say they see stuff there too. Like you said, you've seen videos and viral videos of things. I think you hit it on the head. I really do. I think that is something that we should look into as time
It's
progresses.
it's definitely a topic we can continue to revisit over and over
Absolutely.
because that is a topic that will never die.
It will never die. And it's so interesting, but yet scary at the same time, with autonomous vehicles to the things that we have now that are in the near future. I mean, just think of technology, the computers and movies, the CGIs and all that stuff. Just it's amazing.
It's insane is what it is.
It's absolutely insane.
It's intriguing as well as terrifying.
It is. It is. All right, let's go to a commercial, and then we'll go back on our third and final topic of the day, and we'll get back into talking into that, because I'm kind of interested in seeing what you think about some of the latest things that's been happening here on Twitch as well, too.
There's a lot of it.
Here's a lot of stuff, absolutely. We'll catch you after the break.